I was wondering if you have ever felt the stirring of your soul within you. If you've ever felt that there was something in you that just craved and hungers to be set free, to break free from some kind of internal prison of fear in you. Well, if you've ever felt that, if you've ever felt the stirring of your soul, if you've ever felt the true voice, the true being within you, craving nothing more than for you to let them come out, to come out of being constantly pushed under the rug, swept under the rug, hidden under the table. I know it's hard sometimes because of the way that the world is. And it has a lot of demands on us. I know because I face a lot of them myself. The world has a lot of demands on us and a lot of things it expects of us in terms of how to behave, how to present ourselves, and the things that we have to do each day, plus what our family and friends and society all feel about you, and what they think of you can even be a prison to you sometimes. Because who you really are, in this moment that wants to be free, that wants to express itself genuinely, that spark of God that lives within you, that just wants to be free. It's things like this about our world that can sometimes cause us to live year after year having that soul, that true spirit, that true essence of who we are dormant. And anytime it starts to wake up, we can start cooing it back to sleep. Hey, go back to sleep. And I could stand here in this video and I could spend hours telling you about the peace, the love. I could tell you about infinite dimensions within you that begin to make themselves known to you, all because you're not pushing them underneath the rug anymore. You're finally letting them arise within you. I could tell you about how your life begins to bear fruit, abundance. I could tell you about how things begin to work out so much better for you in your life. I could tell you about the beautiful synchronicity. I could spend hours telling you about all these things that will happen if you just choose to be courageous enough to be who it is that you really are. I could spend a long time telling you about these things. But instead, I want to talk about the less popular, less attractive side of this conversation because it's important and it's often overlooked. And the truth is, you can't get any of that incredible stuff that comes when you have the courage to be who you are. You can't actually experience or thrive in the environment of your true self until you come to understand more about the false self. So the false self is kind of like a prison. It's not kind of like a prison. It is a prison. Let's just be straight up about it. The false self is a prison. And the false self is somewhat comprised of, your beliefs, your ideas about yourself. It's comprised of the world's expectations upon you, who society says that you're supposed to be. I mean, we have all this pressure coming in that causes us, for somewhat survival purposes, to create and paint a sort of image and idea of who we are. So let's say that I have an idea of who Nathan is. And by the way, if this happens to be your first time ever seeing one of these videos, my name is Nathan. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. So let's say for me as Nathan, I have an idea of who Nathan is. Now, the problem with this is that each day in my life, I show up and I'm trying to conform, whether I consciously realize it or not, to the image of who I think I'm supposed to be, the image of who I believe that I am. However, here's the problem with this. When we are constantly trying to conform to our idea, which is comprised based off of all of these other things that go on in the world around us, when we try to conform to that, we are literally spending so much effort and energy shoving ourselves into a box. But something that I find really sad and honestly kind of depressing when you're willing to look at it is how many people live their entire lives being who they think they're supposed to be and never tap in. Only in moments, only in special moments do they begin to feel the presence of their true self, but they never really tap into it. You know, most people just scratch the surface at a few beautiful moments in their life. And they live their whole life not really being who they are. And so the way I feel about this is that if you live this way, you never really lived at all. You didn't. You never lived. You were asleep for your whole life. I mean, no offense. Bear with me with this. You were asleep for your whole life, and you let an idea be the one who lived your life for you. So what I'm asking you to do is to have the courage to stop letting an idea, a belief, a conformity of your spirit, a shoving of yourself into a box. I'm calling upon you to stop doing this. And I know it's scary because I've felt the fear of it in my own life too. You know, I trust me, I get it. I know it's scary because we start to wonder and we start to feel this panic come up and arise in us. If I really allow myself to be who I truly am, and I let go of the idea of myself completely so that I just am that I am, right? So we're no longer saying, this is who I am. That's an idea. That's you conforming. Every time you label yourself, every time you come up with some plan or idea of you, it's the same unconscious pattern. It's you shoving yourself into a new box. Okay, so I know that it's scary to just be what you are. I am that I am. I am not defining myself. I'm not shoving myself into a box. I am. You see, this is where the expression of our true spirit begins to flow freely and beauty begins to magnetize itself towards you. But here's what blocks us from doing that. We may begin the process of this, but all of a sudden we start to have fears, okay? For example, this is a very common one. If I really be who I am, then will I be able to make money and support myself? Okay, I'm speaking about this fear specifically because it has honestly, I'm not proud to say this because, you know, focusing on money more than the spiritual journey, it just kind of seems silly, but I would just want to be honest with you. That's kind of one of the number one fears that hindered me for a long time. And honestly, sometimes it still comes up in me, but I'm doing so much better with it. And I'm really grateful for that. But it's fears like this, like, will I really be supported? Am I really going to be allowed to be who I really am? Because society has all of these extraordinary demands on me, right? And so many of us, we feel the demands of the world around us, and we can't keep up because it's not who we really are to conform and run on that wheel that society asks us to run on. So what do? Take a look around you. Pretty much the entire human population is drugged up on caffeine because we need it. We need our coffee. We need our teas. We need our caffeine in order that we can be the version of us, the idea that society presses upon you, you need to be to function in this world. We've got so many countless people medicated, needing medications just to function. We've got depression, we've got anxiety at all-time highs, and it's like, I just wanted to point that out. If you were to let yourself be who you really are, you wouldn't need all that stuff. You wouldn't need to spend so much time and energy trying to push yourself to be who it is that you think you're supposed to be. And when you let the spirit within you express itself purely, without conforming, I assure you that you will be taken care of. And I know it now. I truly want to just really express this to you. I know it. I know it. Because I've seen it time and time again, no matter how many times I got scared and pushed myself back in. No matter how many times, things weren't working out for me or I needed some help. Anytime I ever asked for help, anytime I ever said, God, please help me, I was helped. Every single time. There's not one time I've ever been left behind or abandoned. And the truth is, this is one of the crazy things. Even before I knew God, God has been with me every single day of my life. Every single day of my life, God's presence has been with me, loving me, supporting me, egging me on to be who it is that I really am. Literally, that unconditional, unwavering love has never not been with me, no matter what I've done, no matter how confused I may have been or problems I may have been caught up in or mistakes I may have made. Like, that love never turned away from me. That light never left me. And so for me, the mistakes I've made in my life, there's a reason I'm telling you this, by the way. The mistakes I've made in my life, the pain and the challenges that I've faced, all of it, the fact that every single time God has been with me, and it's proved to me that I'm going to be okay no matter what, because God is with me. God is with me. And if God is with me, it just has become so clear. It doesn't matter what happens in life. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter what kind of issues or challenges you may be facing. If God is with you, then nothing is ever going to win against you. But we become so afraid that we're not going to make it. We become so afraid. What will the world think of me if I really just be who I am? Right? Like, what if who I am is so different and stands out so completely from what is the norm that nobody accepts me anymore? What if people don't like the truth that wants to express itself through me? What am I going to be able to support myself? Am I going to have the money? Am I going to be able to have a family someday? Am I really going to be deserving and worthy of love if I really, stop being what the world says I need to be for others to love me and want me? Okay, there's all these questions, but I'm telling you, the moment that you stop letting that fear talk you into sleeping through your life, because that's what the fear is doing. That fear, it may present itself as trying to protect you from being hurt by the world, but what that fear is actually doing is talking you into sleeping through your life. That's what the fear is doing. It wants you, who you really are, to stay asleep and let the fear idea, the false self that you've come up with to protect yourself and feel safe in this world, your fear wants to drive. Your fear wants to be in charge of your life. But I say, no. Don't let your fear be in charge of you. Because if you can at least tap into courage, the courage to be who you really are, and you go out in life and every single day, this is what I do. And so I hope this helps. I'm being very real and straight up with you in this video. This is what I do that helps me. If every single day I do my best, my absolute best to be courageous, and that means a lot of times doing something that scares me, that makes me uncomfortable, but I feel called to, right? I feel God calling me to it. I feel that inner being within me guiding me, however you want to say this. I feel the light showing me the path, calling me to it. Even if I'm scared, I do the best I can to show up and take a step forward on that path, even if it scares me. This is the extraordinary thing. Every time you take a step forward, you will see that you are supported. You'll start to see like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. And you begin to see how your fear has been lying to you all along. And that is the transition for me that honestly has really just started taking place this past week. Okay, for a few months now, I've been doing this really deep dive, valuing the truth above all else. And I've come to learn so much, and it's brought me to this point where it's like, I'm finally really understanding, like it finally makes sense to me. God is with me always. So why would I be afraid of anything? Why would I be afraid to be who it is that I really am? It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. Fear is a liar. The false self is a liar, wants you to sleep through your life. And I'm just here to tell you that if you just have the courage to take one step forward each day in the direction of who you really are, just one, face that fear. Because when you face the fear, you see that it's nonsense. You see that it actually has no real power. It just pretends to have power, but it doesn't. It's a lie. And you'll see that every time you take a step forward, now that courage begins to turn into a pure state of faith. And here's what I've learned. Fear cannot coexist in the same cell as faith. It can't. If faith is occupying a cell in your body, fear cannot exist in it. And fear wants to drive us to our desolation, to our eternal despair of having our soul sleep for an eternity, never really wake up, never really become alive in the way that you were intended to live and to be alive in that way. And you know, this has a lot to do with where I got this channel name from, how it came to me. Courageous faith. It starts with courage. And every time you take a step forward, it turns to faith. And when you are embodied with faith, there is nothing that can stop you. Because when you are in a full, unwavering state of faith, you are walking with God. And it's a hard thing to explain, but I know that if you just take a step forward in your life every day, take a step forward today, do something that scares you, but you know that you are truly being called to do, and you will see, hey, it's okay. You know, like I got this. You know, God is with me. And that's when all of a sudden all these doors start to open and things just become clear. Now, this video has been a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I wanted to say one more thing. Much love, peace, and blessings to you in your life. Don't forget that fear it's a liar, and it's keeping you from being who it is that you really are. And I would just love to see your inner spirit break free from the prison, from the confines of who you think you're supposed to be. You know, stop living as an idea and just be what you are. I am that I am. And watch that extraordinary path of unwavering love unfold. I mean, the love it's so real. You know, we are so loved. And it makes no sense to be like living our lives in fear and being so hard on ourselves. At a certain point, that fear and that seriousness and being so hard on ourselves, it withers away in the presence of God's love. And you begin to see that it's just fear. That's all it's ever been. And we are being egged on by the most incredible love to break through that fear and be. And I hope that you have the courage to take a step forward in your life today. So, once again, peace and blessings to you. If you know somebody that might appreciate this message, thanks for sending it their way. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.